right, a very good evening and welcome to Late Night Talk. My name is Kofi Bartels. It's great to have you join us tonight on the program. We come away a bit late, but I know that a lot of you out there I appreciate what we do here, and you're always there to support us no matter what it is. So I apologize for this. It happens, but our guest has had a very busy day, and he graciously accepted to be with us today, and thankfully he is with us on the program today. Now, for those of you who've been sending your messages, of support, I want to thank you very much for your time and your messages as well. I'll take time to respond to them. But for today, let's get straight to the matter of the moment, which happens to be concerning the Nigerian economy and the fortunes of the Nigerian economy regarding COVID-19. Well, something was set up called the Presidential Economic Sustainability Council, the Economic Sustainability Council, headed by the Vice President. And of course, this week, that council presented its report to President Muhammadu Buhari on what needs to be done to set the economy on the right footing after everything that has happened, especially as regards COVID-19. It's not just a Nigerian issue, it's a global issue. Lots of economies are suffering, but we in Nigeria can't sit on our hands and say we won't do anything. And I think it's proactive that the government has been doing something about it. So we have a guest today. He's a policy analyst and is based here in Port Harcourt. He reaches me from his home. I'd like to say good evening to Mr. Ross Alabo George, who joins us for the second time on Late Night Talk. Ross, good evening to you. Thanks for joining us. Great having you today. Great having you today. Yeah. So, can you? What's your take on the economy so far, based on what has happened as regards COVID-19? How have we fared? Mm-hmm.
The impact of the pandemic has been the same. It's shutting down the economy in every nation. Not that it's not only shutting down; countries have to shut down to protect their citizens and all of that. So globally, it's been that of very slow growth, and there's a global recession already. Mm-hmm. Even though a recession can only be said to have happened when there were two consecutive negative GDP growth in the year. The GDP, the negatives have to be consecutive. So in that respect, so we will not say, okay, we're in a recession yet, but then there are a whole lot of countries that are already in a recession. So it is normal for countries that are shutting down. Even if your country didn't shut down, all of the flights, international flights are shut down. International business is shut down. And globalization has made has made the marketplace a village. So whether your country is open or not, the recession of other countries that you deal with, your buyer countries, your seller nations, that connected chain reaction will cause an economic downturn in your own country. So it doesn't matter how much you produce, where you're going to sell to. For instance, Nigeria is producing crude at a very good rate, 2 million barrels per day. But who are we selling to? Because, I mean, the countries are shut down, so people who use gasoline are not buying your gasoline. So everything is about demand and supply. So if you're producing 2 million barrels a day and there's nobody to buy it, it affects you as well. So globally, it's been an economic downturn. It's been a consistent downward spiral, and it's affected. I mean, for Africa, it's been crazy. For Nigeria, for some reason, because our agricultural sector has been growing really fast, and we've had solid investments in agriculture. So we're not really seeing that impact in terms of food supply. We still have food. Our rice is still there without much importation. We're still doing good for most of the commodities that we consume locally. So, yeah, in that sense, we can say that, yes, there is a slowdown. Businesses are shut down. Jobs are being lost because companies are laying off staff, which is normal. Others are paying half, some paying 60%. And because companies, especially small-scale industries, SMEs, small-scale enterprises, these are enterprises that depend on their income and revenue daily. So, for instance, a restaurant cannot pay because they're not earning. People who work in a restaurant, of course, have lost their job. It doesn't matter what you think. Yeah, when they resume, they will come back to work. But as it stands, because they're not earning, they are considered out of job. All right. So for all of this, and because these small-scale enterprises employ more than 70% of the overall workforce in the nation, of course, so we can say that there is a massive upshot in the number of people who are unemployed. So we expect that alone affects the economy as it is, because that is how your GDP begins to go down, because when these people cannot buy, you can produce as much as you can in the farms. As long as these people cannot buy, there's no money in their hand. I mean, you're still going to have that downturn. So, yeah, the pandemic has been a negative for the world. It's also been a negative for Nigeria. So, yeah, the economy has been hit very hard. The airlines are still down. Local airlines are supposed to kick off for the 21st of this month. That's in about 10 days' time. People will start moving. However, people will be very careful. So there's a whole lot of circumspection that will be applied in that. People want to be careful. They want to make sure that the airplanes are well oiled. You don't want to be the one first to jump in an aircraft. So there's that scare that people are taking. You don't want to be the cabin because of spread and all of that. So that's growth will be slow. Even when we still flying, I think international flights will commence sometime in August. But even then, people will be very circumspect about jumping on those flights. So we've seen the gradual growth and the gradual increase in the rate of spread of COVID. And it's shocking that all over the country, people are no longer being very cautious as they should. But we see the numbers spiking up in Lagos, in Port Harcourt, in Abuja. So from what it seems, it looks like the truth is that we're just beginning to experience our own surge. However, some organizations are saying that they'll be older in Africa such that the COVID will just die naturally and not spike as much as it should. But then people are already dying. So the more deaths, the more the caution, the more you want to lock down. You may not lock down by telling people to stay at home, but you lock down because companies will have place restriction on the kind of stuff that they do. The church is a big economic player, like in percent and tithes. They do offering. The church buys diesel every Sunday and Wednesday. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Absolutely.
Oh, okay, fine. So the church is one of the big spenders in the country, like it or not. They hire generators, they hire equipment, they hire a whole lot of these other things. So taking away that bulk, that mass of the economy is also like a very big deal, So don't get it wrong, church employs a lot of people as well. So it's a connected, very very connected space, and until we get back, that engine running fully, until we get the engine running fully, the economy is still going to be lazy. So right now, let's just say the economy is lazy, waiting to be jacked up.
Okay.
But then, you talked about what the economic team is doing. Send the report by the vice president. We've been wondering where he's been. Good to know that they've been. Good to know that they've been working. And I think they've done a brilliant job. I think the fulcrum for the growth that we have to see must come from agriculture, first of all, and I've seen the numbers. They're looking at cultivating 100,000 hectares of farm, new farmland. If you're doing 100,000 hectares of new farmland, that will be, on the average, if you do 10,000 hectares per state, so it's about 5,000 hectares per state. I think that's small. So let's do the mathematics. 100,000 hectares divided by 36. So you're looking at about 3,000 hectares a state. I don't think that is
how many?
ambitious. I don't think 3,000 hectares a state.
3,000.
Yeah, 3,000 hectares per state. I don't think that is ambitious enough. I don't think that's ambitious enough.
Okay.
If you really want to check up that kind of growth, especially using agriculture as a fulcrum, you probably will be looking at doing something close to 10,000 per state. So we should be looking at 300
per state.
Yeah, 10,000 hectares per state. I mean, there are private anchors, there are prime anchors that are doing that. There are prime anchors that have as much as 10,000, 20,000 hectares of cassava farm and rice farms in the north and all of that. So they're doing that. Now, the whole idea of that is that when you have 10,000 hectares, you can subdivide 10,000 hectares to farmers. So you can give each farmer half hectare, and then you have 20,000 farmers. So yeah, if you push out 20,000 farming jobs in a state, yeah, that is fine. But I think while it's good that they're thinking about it, I think that I think it's below what the Ankobora program is already targeted, because the CBN Ankobora program is already doing way more, is supporting way more farmers, than this. But the key challenge to this will be land preparation, because that's where most of the resources go to. And then how is this going to be funded? If they're still going to use the Ankobora platform, then I think they'll probably have to start thinking about how to organize the farmers, especially through the states. You don't want to do this through, the Ankobora program is such that it boycotts the states and then it deals directly with the farmer associations. Okay. You understand? So, but in this case, in this case, you want to bring the state into the picture so that they will know how to distribute this, because this is an economic palliative, so that they know how to distribute it, and then get results. And there are several other interventions that they plan. They're talking about housing units. I don't know how, possibly those are to create jobs like that. If you do, the report says that a mass agricultural program, which is expected to bring between 20,000 and 100,000 hectares of new farmland. Okay. Oh, fantastic! In every state. So yeah, that is what I think it should be. Here they're saying 20,000 to 100,000 hectares. Okay. Yeah, in every state. So yeah, I think so if it's per state, then that makes it really, really ambitious. So if you're doing 100,000 hectares per state, then That is really large. That is very, very ambitious. But 20,000 hectares is somewhere you can start from. In River State, the governor is already working in that direction. They're looking at, and I was telling someone that a lot of the stuff that the River State government is trying to do is not even up to 30,000 hectares. And I told the person that, well, the River State is doing well, but it's not ambitious enough, right? If you really want to show that you're doing something that will impact, farmers and then impact the state's economy at that level, you probably will be talking about at least 50,000 hectares cultivated, annually. So, I think the committee has done like a very good job in their report. Basically, they're looking at creating jobs, and they're focusing on local production, local service, local innovation, and then the emphasis on the use of local materials. But then, how much of this local materials do we produce apart from what we produce in agriculture? They're talking about installation of solar home systems. All of those solar panels that we use are not manufactured here. So
none of them are manufactured here.
No. We don't do solar panels. Rather, we import a lot of those. Import a lot of those stuff. Okay. So, and that's why I think agriculture will still remain the fulcrum for that growth. It will be difficult to think about anything, two ways. First of all, it's going to give us food security, right? And then we do not need to push our capital out. I was talking to someone today, and River State will get a 78 billion refund the next few weeks.
Yeah.
Now,
some people thought they've gotten it already, but going by what people were saying.
I don't think. Of course, finances doesn't work that way. They probably may give them in different installments, But I trust the state. The state has a mechanism that is very strong in negotiating at the center. I'm sure they will do their deals and then make sure that the state gets the fund like really quickly. But then this is the problem, with that kind of money. If you invest on capital expenditure, ask yourself, how many local contractors do you have that can trap the funds? Okay. You don't have strong local contractors that can trap the funds.
In River State, you're talking about contractors.
Oh yeah, in River State. Yeah.
Really?
In River, in River State. So wow. Who are the contractors do? Who are the contractors doing the major capital projects in the state?
What happened to those guys who were there in the days of Rivers money for Rivers people?
Okay, well, when you're dealing with local contractors, capacity is always a problem. And of course, definitely, if you're looking at an international bidding process, local companies really do not stand a chance because international companies come with much larger capacity. They come with better equipment and just the sheer, chests, to do the job. Okay. You can testify to the kind of work that Julius Berger does. If you look at the flyovers that they are building, you just see the quality of the work. For every governor, you don't want excuses, right? You want the job done, and Julius Berger is doing the job. Now their price may be 100%, 50% more expensive than that of the local contractor. But then you can go to bed and know that those guys don't need to be supervised. There are companies that are that big. You don't need to supervise them. They've made their mark. They have a profile. You don't need to supervise them. So the tendency is that you'll be tempted to want to do more capital projects, want to do more flyovers, want to do larger roads. But who are you paying? You're going to pay Julius Berger. You're going to pay all of these big companies. They're going to get your money and they're going to take it out of the state. Yeah. Okay. So, basically that's what happens. So you don't get to invest.
Flight of the funds.
Yeah, it's capital flight. Basically. So that money does not get to stay in the state. So, for instance, if you have a company XY that is based in River State, based in Port Harcourt, and then you give them a job for 10 billion to construct a flyover in Port Harcourt, you're going to be sure that 10 billion is going to remain here. They'll probably get more equipment, probably employ more staff, train more of their staff when it stays here. But and that's why it's not a smart thing to invest in a lot of capital projects.
Really?
You can you to want to invest a lot of your money in capital projects. You can spend your way out of a recession by somebody somewhere that's coming in. Okay, the federal government says don't trap the funds, and that's what the committee is recommending. Invest in ventures that use local resources so that you don't have to import. The value of the naira is down. It's hovering around 400. So importing raw materials does not make sense. So you import for 400 naira around it. So why not look around the resources? And what local resources we have basically is agriculture. I have a lot of disagreement with, this Cross River State system, but I must give it to them that
you had to go. You had to go there. You had to go to Cross River State.
I had to go there really well because the guy has a lot of bogus plans, right? But then he thinks.
Okay, we seem to be having some sort of network problem. Ross, can you hear me?
I can hear you very well.
Okay. So, Cross River State the governor has gotten lots of plaudits, buying tractors and then asking all the young people to come out and then just on the spot giving thousands of them jobs and say he's going to pay them XYZ amount of money and
just get all those are
you think publicity stunts?
There's a whole lot of stunts in it. But this is why I respect his ideas. He has very good ideas, but sometimes I think my contention is with their methodology.
Okay.
I'll give an example. Cross River State is one of the biggest cocoa producers in the country, right? Okay. But then all of the cocoa we produce is exported. And when you export raw materials, you export jobs as well. So if I export 1 million metric tons of cocoa, I'm exporting close to 1,000 jobs. You see? So if I decide to process the cocoa here, right, that same volume of cocoa will become, for instance, if I do one ton at $1 and I export 1 million tons, that means I'm going to get $1 million. But if I process the cocoa here, I'm going to get 300% of the value per ton.
Wow.
So that means that instead of getting $1 per metric ton, $1 per ton or $1 per ton, I'll get $3 per ton. So instead of getting $1 million, right, I'm going to get $3 or more. $3 million or more. So that's what Cross River State is doing now. They have a cocoa process. The first cocoa now is shocking. This is the first.
Okay, we seem to be having some. Ross, can you hear me, please?
I can hear you very well.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you were saying they have the first cocoa processing plant?
Yeah, so they are processing cocoa into chocolates.
Okay, in Cross River State?
Yes. Yeah, in Cross River State.
Who would have thought?
I think that just yes. So I think that just about rolling that out the rice seedlings that rice farmers across the country will use, for this wet season, for this wet season, and the wet season has just started. So if you look at those kinds of ventures, those ventures are things that you're doing locally, and you're going to source for the materials locally. So for Cross River State, their cocoa factory or their chocolate factory will not have to import raw materials. They have raw materials already in Cross River State. So all they will need to do is that they'll probably reduce their exports and offtake from all their cocoa farmers, pay them. And then, start making chocolates, and then you export chocolates. Now, what happens is that factory is going to employ at least 500 people, okay? And then you create jobs for them, So basically, I think that's what this committee is recommending.
Interesting.
And, in River States, during the lockdown, the state government was buying from farmers. You're buying off from farmers and all of that. Yeah, that's good, but that on itself is not sustainable, because that model can cause inflation.
Oh, wow, really?
You're just buying, of course. You're just buying up from all of them, and then you distribute the way you want to distribute it. So people who are not in your distribution chain, cannot have access to, that. And then the limited number that the farmers now have, they will now increase the price.
So how come no one thought about it?
Well, it's of course, you saw how price of food got up in the States in all of those periods. We had inflation. The people thought, they were rushing out to buy. People thought it was about the rush. Yeah, it wasn't about the rush. It was mainly because the state was actually buying off a whole lot. So what was available in the markets were less, and the borders were closed. People could not bring foodstuffs into the country, so that affected the price of food in the market. So so I think what the state should have done would have been more or less to invest in these farms, not offtake. Invest in fresh products, and then offtake in the extra fresh products that you're investing in. And that's why if you look at what the committee is recommending, that they're not saying 20,000 to 100,000 new farms. They're saying new farms. So in addition to what you have existed, right, invest to create new, extensions, to that. So don't tell me, okay, you're investing in the existing farmers. No, you're investing in 50,000 existing farmers. No, that's not what they're saying. They're saying you should invest in a fresh new set of farmers, that can produce, for you to offtake and then create jobs. Right now, people are ready to work, because if you observe people in the city are in their homes, right? People in the villages go to the farms. So in the villages,
no lockdown there.
No, there's no lockdown. Those guys are producing. As I speak to you, wet season is up. Cotton farmers, cassava farmers, they're all in the farms. Rice farmers are in the farm. Maize farmers are farming. Ginger farmers are there. Groundnut farmers are in the farm. All of this talk that we're talking about, and that's the reason why our recession has not been very fast, because 35-40% of our GDP is basically agriculture.
Which is surprising.
People actually always think, people actually always think that, petroleum should be the larger part of petroleum is a larger part of our revenue, right? But agriculture is a larger part of our GDP.
Has this always been the case?
This has always been the case. Okay. In fact, agriculture has been the largest part. It used to be really large. It used to be like 70% of our GDP. Yeah. Now, the GDP basically is money in the hands of people. Okay. So how much of oil money do Nigerians have?
Per capita.
Per capita. Oil money basically goes to the government. It basically goes to the government. Yeah. So the money that is in the hands of people, like 30% in the so that let me just interpret that in a layman's format, right? So in the whole country, we're about 150 million, 200 million people. 30 to 35% of funds in people's hands come from agriculture.
Okay.
Yeah. So in terms of oil, small portion of our GDP, maybe about 10% or less. Okay, now maybe 15% or less. Because how many of us work in the oil and gas industry? The truth of the matter is that if the oil and gas industry goes down today, it's only going to affect government revenue, right? And going to affect the cost of petroleum products. But it really would not affect the
average man,
life of it. Will not affect everything. Government will go broke. But the farmer is still going to go to farm. He's still going to go to his farm, right? The trader who sells whatever is still going to sell, because the truth of the matter is that oil affects government revenue, and it can affect government business. So government business will mean that states will now suffer. Because states will wait to receive allocation, and then states workers will now suffer because they will not get payments. So states will start owing salaries. Now, for states that are very dependent on civil service, they will fail. Their economies will fail. But states that are dependent on agriculture, ask yourself, how many people in the state work for state government?
That's a good question.
So in every state you have maybe less than 5% of the state's population works for government. So if government cannot pay, it really doesn't affect the quality of life of the people. People still go about their normal business. So, but if you have a problem in agriculture, if you have flooding, and that's why flooding is a major challenge. If you have a whole state flooded, or an entire region flooded, it means that you're sending farmers on the lockdown, like they can't do anything, and then you're going to have a major impact on the GDP. That's when you now see people crying, "Oh man, we can't even see food to buy." The cost of food goes up, and then the state suffers, because that is the chunk of the GDP. So I think bottom line, that investment in agriculture is proper, and I think it should be the key fulcrum of what state government should be doing.
Amazing.
There should be massive. In fact, about solar panels and all of that, as far as I'm concerned, is absolute doesn't make sense right now.
Oh, really?
Focus, The points 1, 2, 3 should be investments in agriculture. Wow. Like it could be livestock, different forms of livestock, produce chicken, produce food, produce goats, grow whatever, and then produce locally, produce all of these commodities locally, and then produce them well enough that we can export. In 2013, Nigeria was the highest rice importing nation in the world. Right?
And is it better today?
Of course. We were importing more rice than China in 2013. China is like 1 billion people. But Nigeria was importing more rice than China. Right? Today, we're not even in the top 5. We're not even in the top 7.
Is that a miracle or what?
Well, that's credit to the government. That's credit to the federal government. I think probably that's one of the areas where they've succeeded. It's about injecting a lot of fund recklessly into agriculture. And what that has done is that it has engendered a lot of people to go into agriculture. There are a lot of programs CBN is running. Just that in this part of Nigeria, our people are not even aware of those incentives, so they don't get to participate.
Are they even interested? Are we even interested in this part of the world in farming of the country?
That's why the state government needs to organize farmers.
Okay, hold on.
You need to organize farmers.
Okay, hold the thought. We'll come back to Rivers State, but very interesting thoughts that you've shared. Our guest this evening is Ross Alabo George. He's a policy analyst, and he's been just dishing it out for us. And I've just thoroughly enjoyed myself. I hope you have too. Also looking out for your messages and your contributions tonight as we look at the Nigerian economy in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. And of course, the president inaugurated what is called the Economic Sustainability Council. The Economic Sustainability Council, headed by the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osibajo, did submit...
The Vice President.
Yes, by the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osibajo, did submit its report to the President, Muhammadu Buhari, this week. And what was the highlight? The headline from most of the papers said, COVID-19, 39.4 million Nigerians may lose jobs before 2020 ends. 39.4 1.4 million Nigerians will lose jobs before 2020 ends. And I'm sure Ross will agree with me that some countries don't even have up to that as their total population. Some countries don't have that
Yeah,
as
true.
so that's a lot. That's a lot. Let's just read a little bit of this. So they didn't just submit a report that talked about the negatives. They actually had a report talking about an action plan to mitigate this, an action plan to protect the economy and ensure that this is reduced to the barest possible minimum. So that's what it presented to the president, an action plan in the economic sustainability report. Before laying out the plan, which would be driven by various federal ministries. Okay, Ross, can you hear me, please?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay. All right. I just want to be sure about that. Okay, so before submitting the plan, Ross, can you still hear me? All right. So before submitting the plan or laying out the plan, which will be driven by various federal ministries and agencies of government, the vice president observed that the grim pictures would only get so bad if government failed to take necessary preemptive measures to mitigate the effects of the COVID-19 outbreak. It's what the vice president said. The projection, according to him, also suggested that the gross domestic product might fall to the negative of between minus 4.40 and minus 8.91, depending on how long the protective lockdowns last, and that millions more will fall into extreme poverty. So they titled the plan Bouncing Back. And this economic sustainability plan titled Bouncing Back, however, outlined a range of multi-sectoral remedies which would take care of massive job creation through the agricultural and construction sectors, as well as lending support to the informal sector and small-scale business sector. And a lot of that is what our guest, Ross Alabo George, has been highlighting today. Now, Ross, looking at the figure of 39.4 million Nigerians losing their jobs before the end of 2020, do you feel that the measures, the action plan outlined in the economic in the report by the Economic Sustainability Council can address this to a reasonable extent? Because that is a huge number.
Well, it wouldn't, but then palliatives are not meant to quench hunger. They're just meant to make you feel better, right? Mm-hmm. So let's assume that we lose 40 million jobs, okay? And what is the maximum? That means that if we put this across the states, Lagos has a lot, but let's just do an average. So it's going to be an average of 1 million jobs lost per state, okay? If you look at the figures in that respect, you now ask yourself, which state in this country can create 1 million jobs? Not even Lagos.
Before the end of 2020.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, before the end of 2020. So all of these are just measures that would just give an average of stimulating the economy so that the economy doesn't break. Okay, we don't get a real bad recession. Okay. Now let's assume that we go with the measures they're putting in place, especially for agriculture, and let's do 100,000 hectares of farm per state. Okay, 100,000 hectares. And let's assume that, okay, we're even splitting that 100,000 hectares, to one hectare to two people, right? Even at that, the best case, you have 200,000 farmers, like 200,000 people employed per state. So you still have a deficit. Yeah, so you still have a deficit of 800,000 people who've lost their jobs. Now, let's assume that you create another 200,000 jobs by empowering people to start small businesses, now, in fact, all of these small businesses, we're even going to find the markets. For instance, someone who sews, a woman who sews clothes, people don't go out, schools are locked down, people are not, weddings are not happening, so people are not spending. So if people do not have funds in their hands, people are not going to spend money. Do you understand? So the whole idea is that you need to, these are austerity measures. So people will now start having to look at, locally made products and start buying locally made products. And I think that's the only part I probably did not see in this, where we need to control the amount of stuff we're importing, and get our people to start buying locally made and using locally made stuff. Nigerians are used to foreign made goods, a whole lot. Yeah. So, but however, the African Development Bank, actually projected a real GDP growth of 2.9% for Nigeria in 2020.
With all that's
and
happening.
That was before now.
Okay. All right.
And 3.3% in 2021. Now, the just to tell you how bad it has been, the first quarter wasn't bad because we still had a lot of future sales for oil, happen. So that was stable. But from the second quarter is ending in this month, right? So we'll start counting our negatives from this month, and I'm sure July, August, September by September we'll see how bad it is because we're producing a lot of oil and we're not able to sell. Mm-hmm. So we expected that we will bounce into that recession. But the good thing is that it's not only us; everybody get the same problem, So yeah.
So when you look at negative GDP, that sounds. I mean, to your other man on the street, I'm sure that would sound really scary. Like
Now the vice president's committee is telling us that we'll experience minus 4.4 to minus 10. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you how bad it is. We had the African Development Bank had a projection of 2.9% growth in 2020. Okay. So for us to be having a 4.4, so it's from 3% to 4.4. So we're looking at a almost a two-digit drop in economic growth, in GDP growth, and that's a whole lot. That's a whole lot. It's still not and that's why we are advising governors, stop spending money building too many bridges, too many roads. Invest in the people. You know what I'm saying? Like, invest in the people.
In what will yield returns.
In what will yield returns. You don't need to spend money on the roads and on the bridges for now. All those things are very good.
When it's not absolutely necessary.
Yeah, especially when it's not. Exactly. Like, for instance, why we want to build like I mean, if you've awarded a contract before now, that's fine. All of these are unexpected situations. But now that we're in the pandemic, this is not a time to accept their extremely important regional concerns, like federal government building railways and all of that. Those are very important. Like, the railways are very important for agriculture. Mm-hmm. Yeah. For instance, if we had a railway from Kaduna to Port Harcourt that was working very well, there's no reason why we can't have rice mills in Port Harcourt. So we have the funds here, so we can make the rice mills. So we'll buy the rice for cheap, process them, create jobs here, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. Create jobs for our people here, and then we'll have like 3 rice mills. We'll produce the rice, send them to other states. Our people will have the job here. You understand? So for those economic infrastructure that are very important, like railways that will transport agricultural products, those are extremely important. Okay. If you're building a road that will make agriculture better for rural farmers, fine. But for urban dwellers, man, this is not a time to want to please urban dwellers, really. I think it's time to invest in the people, invest in agriculture, invest in small and medium scale enterprise.
But you're making a point about the bridges. There's a point you're trying to make about the bridges.
Give them incentive trade.
Okay. Yeah, there's a point you're trying to make about the bridges and the flyovers that you didn't complete. So can you just go back?
Well, you know what I'm talking about. And the point I'm making is this, right? If these roads and bridges are to drive local production and agriculture, yeah, I don't have any problems with that. For instance, if you're doing a road like Boris-Sakbenwa Road, right? All of the Gary we buy in Port Harcourt, 50% of the Gary we consume in Port Harcourt comes from the Ogoni axis. So if you're doing a road that will connect Ogoni to Port Harcourt, fantastic. That's a good investment because it's going to make people in Port Harcourt access the rural products, agricultural products in Bori very quickly, right? If the federal government is doing the railway, okay, they're doing the Abuja-Ibadan railway right now. The Chinese companies are doing it. Those are solid projects, because they're going to help move food products, and all of that across the country. Mm-hmm. But what I have a problem with, is doing projects that will help traffic in Port Harcourt, or doing projects that will help traffic in Lagos, or that will help traffic in Yenagoa. Or this is not the time to think traffic. Not the time to think traffic. This is the time to think about the people, right? So how do they have food on their table? That's the first thing you should think about. So how do I create jobs for people? And how do I produce food for the people? Two very important things. So agriculture does not only create jobs, it creates food security. So you have food security and then you create jobs. And then the next thing you now think about is, how do I use these locally produced materials to create jobs? So what are the options that we have as a state, or as a local government, or as a country, to use the locally produced raw materials to set up industries that can employ people? For instance, in River State, there's no reason why you can have a pharmaceutical company making chloroquine. Producing paracetamol.
Or producing syringes.
or producing syringes. The raw materials are behind you. Element Petrochemical is here. We have the petrochemical companies there. All right? So the raw material is there. All of those things are just out there. There are existing companies that are moribund that you can shoot back to life. Right? You can shoot them back to life. I like what the governor is doing. They've gone back to Songhai farms.
Okay. We're going to go there.
Yeah, the Songhai farms about 300 hectares, small. But then within that ecosystem, there's a whole lot going on. It's going to employ people, and it's going to train people. It can actually catalyze, agriculture in the state. There are all of the state farms, they're thinking of getting back all the state farms on. That's a very good thing. All of the fish farms, they want to get them back on. Fantastic. But also, think about the paints company that the state used to have. Think about all of the company that the states used to have.
The machete company.
Yeah, the of course. That's one. We used to have an electrical company that used to make fans and fridges and all of that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can get all of those things. Oh yeah. Those guys on Transamadi Road, they used to do a whole lot. I think it was called the Netco or something like that. They used to do, right now they're just making cabinets, but they used to produce ceiling fans, they used to produce air conditioners, they used to produce refrigerators. I've forgotten the name of the company, I'm sure. I'm going to recall the name of the company. There used to be matches, there's this company that used to make matches, on Transamadi Road. We used to have a lot of this producing companies, yeah. Mm-hmm. Company that was producing chemicals and paints and all of these things. All of these things are like, we have the raw materials here, and there's nothing wrong if you just think of, okay, let's start producing something, from the plastics that we have here, from the petrochemicals. You can produce all sort of plastic raw materials. And plastic is the 6th most important good in the United States. So why can't we invest?
Ross, I took a trip. Sorry to interrupt you there. One of those days I went to the petrochemicals, I saw lots of trucks, and they told me, these trucks, some of them were coming to pick. What do they call it again? Take fertilizer. And some of them were coming to take the plastic pellets. They showed me the pellets they produce, in large quantity for the plastic industry in Nigeria. I said, wow.
Sure.
And I noticed that a lot of the trucks, all of them actually were from the north. All of them. They were packed in the compound of the chemicals. Some of the drivers were sleeping under the trucks, waiting for their turn to take the pellets. Ross, one day I looked under the bottle cap of plastic bottle Coke that I was drinking, and it said "Made in Port Harcourt."
Yeah.
Indorama. Plastic bottle Coke, and I was like, wow. I didn't know that the bottle of Coke, plastic bottle, was made from River State, that the Coke the whole nation drinks.
Yeah.
And we don't have anything.
And the good thing to that, however, is that Governor Dele invested in Indorama, in the Petro, I think in Indorama, right? So
Okay.
Riverside has about 9%.
It's not bad.
Right? Yeah, Riverside has about 9% of the 9 or 10% of Indorama, and that will make a whole lot of money from that.
Really
we'll make about 9 billion, we'll make almost 10 billion naira from Indorama every year.
But you're saying we're saying there's more we can do.
There is so much more we can do, right? The state government, there's no reason why the River State government should not have a plastic manufacturing company. Like, there's no reason why we shouldn't have that. All of those pellets we're exporting to the north, why can't we use them here and create jobs? Do you understand? All of the stuff they used to make a car battery, like car battery, yeah, we have all the raw materials in River State to make a car battery. What do you need? You need lead, you need acid, you need the plastic. And we have all of it here. So there's absolutely no reason, do you understand, why these things cannot be done here? And this is where I think that the state government must start thinking towards. What are our biggest consumptions as a state? Like, why can't we produce chloroquine? Chloroquine is so people get sick of malaria in Nigeria every day. And Nigeria imports chloroquine. Nigeria imports paracetamol. Why can't we have a pharmaceutical company? Why can't the state government, for instance, partner with a large pharmaceutical concern, a large pharmaceutical company, bring them here, set up a large pharmaceutical company, employ 1,000 people? Do you understand?
Ross, hold on. Somebody watching on YouTube says, Chino Isaac says the company's name is Revoke or something like that.
Revoke, yeah, correct.
So,
Revoke.
Chino Isaac, thank
very
you
correct.
Much. Yeah.
He
says they were
Chino,
into plastic materials, but now they've relocated to Lagos. Chino, thank you.
Yeah, and you see, it's just a big problem. So this for me is what the state government should be thinking of. If you're not investing in agriculture, look, just stop building plenty of roads for now. Like, just invest in these things that can create jobs. Do you know what 1,000 jobs can do in a state? 1,000 jobs will empower 1,000 families. And you know how the Nigerian system is. Everybody who has a job, even if you're earning 20,000, you still have like 3 other people that are connected to you. Mm-hmm. That's just, you're going to help at the end of the day. So when you empower 1,000 people, you're actually empowering like 5,000 people. There's always a chain effect. You know, those cards that we have, this plastic cards that we use for ATM card.
Yeah.
ATM card. Why can't River State government have a company that does ATM cards? So instead of investing 5 billion on building a flyover, why can't we do an ATM card manufacturing company? So we just make the cards for the banks. Do you understand?
So the banks, what you're saying is the money is good. It's important to put it into some infrastructure, but this is not the time. And this is the time to think and put the money into things that can create wealth and sustainability for the people now, to things normalize.
Exactly, because right now we're going to lose a lot of jobs, right? The banks are soon going to start sacking people, right? Mm-hmm. The oil companies are soon going to start sacking people. So you need to look at those things that are fast-moving consumer products that people will always buy. And those are the things that you need to start investing in. River State has the Rivers Flour Mill. I don't know how well that place is working. Right? If we have it still working, we need to expand the River State Flour Mill. We need to employ. So the full value chain of agriculture, we need to extract that full value chain of agriculture. We don't produce so much in River State, right? But then we can process the goods that people produce. Lagos State has a partnership with Kebbi State. Yeah. What do? Lagos State brings the money, Kebbi State brings the raw materials. And they share the profit big time. Like people get employed.
And that's how it ought to be. If we really had this federal structure of comparative advantage, do what you can and I do what I can, and we do some barter and stuff like that.
I'm telling you, that's what it is. But it's in River State, yeah. I think we'll become too satisfied with judging by the number of roads that they build and the number of bridges that they build, such that the politicians themselves no longer care about creating jobs, because the people don't ask about jobs. They don't ask the questions like, how many jobs did you create? See, as far as I'm concerned, you can do 1 million roads. Yeah, you can do 1 million roads. But the roads that you do are supposed to serve the economy of the state. And the economy of a state means nothing if the people in the state are not producing. Now, all of the roads and the infrastructure that you put in place are supposed to help production. So if there's no production, nothing is going to happen. Like, you're just going to be, the roads are going to break down, and at the end of the day, you will not have enough tax to revive it, right? Because it's tax money that should get this up. So for me, I think what we need to do is, just like we've said, the game plan is simple. Like, invest in the value chain. So if it's agriculture, put money in agriculture, not just in the farming part of agriculture, but also in the processing part of agriculture. I was telling you the other day, right, that River State used to be the highest cassava grower in the country.
That's I can't even
Right now,
I can't even wrap my head around it. Really.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Right now, you know how some people don't eat Gary as much as we do. How some people don't even eat Gary. That's the truth. Like, how some people eat their toshikafa, they have their corn. So for them, it's millets, maize, and corn. Cassava is not in their culture. It's not culturally, they don't have cassava. They don't even grow cassava. But right now, instead, like Gombe State produces more cassava than Rivers State, Bayelsa State, and Akwa Ibom State combined. Gombe.
Unbelievable.
And what they do, they produce cassava for exports. All right? They produce the cassava and then sell to cassava processing plants. So thank God Governor Wike is resuscitating the cassava processing plants. But the truth with that is that we're not producing enough cassava in River State. And I keep telling people, put together all the cassava farms in River State, it's less than 5,000 hectares of cassava farms. A lot of our cassava farms are smallholder farmers. Yeah, less than 5,000 hectares. So the state has a 2,000 hectare plan, okay, with DATSCO, a company called DATSCO, 2,000 hectares. That's in its own, it's not even enough to service that cassava processing plants. So we need to scale up production to at least 20,000 hectares across, and it's going to take some effort. What does it take? Land preparation. Identify the lands, right? Identify the lands. Open up the lands. Send them tractors. Prepare the land, and then just get people, allocate the parcels to people to farm. You can put them under a prime anchor. The prime anchor is responsible for everybody. It's off-taking from everybody, right? But then each farmer has yields and makes money from the parcel of land that they have. And until we start doing that, handing over, privatizing farms really does not impact the people. You're going to privatize the farm. You have 2,000 hectares. The investor is going to come, plant on those farms, harvest on the 2,000 hectares, and send it to wherever he wants to send it to. So the local farmer does not make money. And I've said it before, the reason why the Ogoni plantation failed, the banana plantation failed, was that you didn't carry the community along.
You said so last time.
Yeah. If you don't carry the community along, if you don't carry the local farmers along, we're going to have problems. So
Ross,
I think it's always about empowering the people, especially in the pandemic. If you look at the United States, what they're doing is that they have a plan, okay, to help people get their paychecks. The government is sending money to people directly, and there's nothing wrong. For us, we don't need to send money to people directly. Yeah. All we need to do is to give them the opportunity to make money for themselves. So instead of sending them, or in America, they're sending $2,000, right? Here, we can say, okay, we want 5,000 young people who want to farm. We're not going to give you money. We're going to prepare the land for you. We're going to give you seedling. We're going to give you fertilizer. We're going to give you everything you need to be on the farm.
Okay.
But you just be on the farm. And then worst case, don't even sell. We're going to buy up everything from you. You understand? So that is a form. That is a stimulus process. Okay. Yeah. But then it leaves a lot of impact on it, empowers that person.
Okay, Ross.
So the next year the person doesn't come back. The person doesn't come back to you
and says he wants more handouts. Ross, it's quite a really daunting figure. 40 million people losing their jobs. We're not even talking about those who are already unemployed in Nigeria. Not gainfully employed, let me say, if that term is right, then we'll probably talk about almost half of the entire country. So it's a really grim projection. But for me, it's quite encouraging that the government has actually they didn't just start up and just bring any kind of plan or any kind of report. They got projections and tried to be as real, as realistic, and as honest as possible, even at the risk of making government look bad. That was an encouraging sign. But looking at what the vice president says, he says they decided to hinge their strategy on Mr. President's mantra to produce what we eat and consume what we produce. It seems that they're looking more inward now than before. Do you see, even though you've said that these strategies may not yield results to the extent that everything gets back to normal immediately,
Oh yeah.
do you see a silver lining somewhere in this dark cloud that can set us up for future economic gains?
Yeah, I do. I think it's all going to revolve around the quality of leadership at the bottom, not at the top. The president can come up with all the fantastic ideas and the blueprints and the white papers, but then if at the lower level of governance, which is at the local government level and at the state level, the state governments do not connect with this large vision, right? We'll have problems. People are concerned more about what they hope that they will make, right? A legacy for them, investing in agriculture really does not sound like that kind of legacy, golden legacy for governors. So they prefer to do things that people will see, so that after 10 years, after 15 years, after 20 years, they'll all look back and be like, oh man, like I did that. I did that bridge. I did that flyover. I did that road. That is what we call legacy. And I think it's so because our minds have been so twisted that we don't even look at education as legacy. How much is your state government spending on education? How many of your students are doing well in all of these common entrances and examinations? How well equipped are your universities and your schools? Okay, we're no longer looking at these things, as legacies of the politicians that we elect. Rather, we're looking at flyover, bridge, these buildings. So the politician is giving you what you want. They're giving you buildings, and if the day you start requesting for jobs, the day you start asking them, look, how many jobs did you create? Trust me. Politicians are the smartest set of people that I know. They will make it happen. Yeah, I'm telling you, they will make it. They will make it happen. They will go out of their way to make it happen. And we need to start showing that seriousness. That look, we want these things done. But then this is the stuff that the question you asked. Just going back there, if the governors key into the plan, like the plan they just had is very good. It's not a time to build too many roads. It's not a time to build too many roads. Fix the roads that you have. If you have bad roads, fix them, right? If you have bad roads, fix them. If you have schools that need to be fixed, if you have schools that need to be fixed, fix them. If you have health centers that need to be fixed.
They want to build about 300,000 homes every year.
Well, that in its own is really, they're looking at that to more or less create jobs, those short-term jobs and all of those kind of things. But I don't think there's a time to be building, except those homes you're building, you're getting the raw materials from here. I don't know how many cements, except they're building those roads using wood. They're building the houses using wood. If they're building those houses using wood, fine. But I think our cements, of course, within that, I sense that the cement cabal is our work. Okay. Yeah, of course. If you need to build that, then you need to use cement to build those houses. And we do not produce a lot of cement locally. Most of our cement is imported, and the reason why we import cement is because the cement that is produced in China is cheaper. It is cheaper to produce cement in China than to produce cement in Nigeria. So the cement companies import the cement to Nigeria and then back them here. Do you understand? Because they don't make profit. We'll buy cement in Nigeria for about 2,000 naira, right?
Yeah.
And 2,000 naira is about $50. I guess so. $100. No, not that. 2,000 naira should be somewhere around
that should be
$10.
Yeah, $10.
Yeah, $10. Yeah,
$15, $20. Yeah.
Yeah,
$10. Yeah, about $10.
Yeah, about $10. So a bag of cement in Nigeria is about $10. Right? A bag of cement in China, the same 50 kg cement of China is about $4, $5. Do you understand? So why why buy or produce at that high amount when I
where
can
does the
import
problem lie?
like
Is it that we don't have the know-how, because we have the raw materials here, don't we? We have the natural resources to produce cement here, if I'm not mistaken. If
limestone. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
we have the raw materials to produce cement here, but then we do not have the facility set up, completely. And then the cost of mining this,
okay.
okay, the cost of mining it is also more expensive here.
Oh, I see.
Do you understand? Yeah, because here you need to blow up the rocks, and then where we don't have too much of those quantities. The cost of mining here is more. So in China, it's they already have this stuff already established, so they just do it. And so when people just go there and then buy the cement, bring it here, and they bag it, and they make 200% profits, on that. So why would you want to make 20% profit or 30% profit when you can make 200% profit? And that's why you see the cement business is really, 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 really. It's a cabal, is a closed up area. Entering to that business is really, really, really tough, and it's more like a mafia. It's like a mafia setup in the cement.
Cartel setup.
Is a cartel setup. You don't just go into it. There's a popular cement dealer, whose entire shipment was suspended in the Atlantic for over 6 months. Just because the federal government had to protect the interest of a certain other cement producer. So it's big. It's big business for them. So I understand why. The government is talking about building houses. I don't see Nigerians are such that they always have where to stay. You don't have a house, you go stay with your brother. You don't have a house, you go stay with your uncle. Okay. Worst case, you go back to the village, right? So I don't think housing right now is the most critical challenge that we have. The biggest problem we have now is employment. So yes, I agree with them on investing in agriculture, using local products, patronizing locally made. Patronizing locally made products as well. Now, in small and medium scale, which actually employs more people, right? There are sectors that I expect that they should be looking at. Nigerians spend about 24 trillion naira on food annually. Now, 24 trillion is about 4 times our national budget. So it means that Nigerians eat 4 times their national budget every year. So that's
a funny way to put it.
So these are the areas that you should be looking at. Small scale businesses, what people that employ hotels. So you need to help them. You look at how do I help hotels? How do I help restaurants?
For small scale businesses, they are saying that they want to facilitate broadband connectivity across the country, and create a wide variety of technology and ICT jobs. They're talking about expanding their social investment program through the increase of cash transfer beneficiaries, NPA, market money, trader money, etc. What do you think that's apt?
For me, I still, just like the minister for finance or whatever said, I really don't understand the end point of Empower. Sorry to say this, I know the guys that crafted Empower, right? A few of them are my friends and all of that. But then the politics of Empower is that, okay, let's empower people. But to what end? All right? To what end? You're paying people 30,000 naira every month for doing nothing. That's absolute nonsense as far as I'm concerned. Like, I would rather you invest. You've spent over 300 billion naira on Empower. Yeah, why not invest the money in agriculture? Like, give these people 1 hectare of land. Like, prepare 1 hectare of land for each of these Empower guys and send them to the farms. In Rivers, we used to have what they call school to land. Like, if Empower just bought people tabs, right? Yeah, tabs. Yeah, I'll tell you what they were doing. They trained them, on the bot tabs, the bots. They try to make things digital for them. They taught them skills, and then you teach them the skills, and then what? See, skill acquisition. Skill acquisition is absolutely like 20% of it all, Like you can't teach someone a skill and then dump the person. Today I was watching a movie about, venture capitalists in Africa, and we're talking about the Igbo system of venture capitalism, right? And this guy on this TEDx presentation in Atlanta, Georgia, he referred to the Igbo, this settlement system.
Okay, the apprenticeship and
right, this Igbo apprenticeship system. He called it the biggest venture capital system in the world, the biggest venture capital system in the world.
Amazing.
And the reason is because you train them on the job, and then you settle them to go and run their business. But Empower, you train the people and they let them to go. Where are they going to find the business? Like, you're not creating the opportunities for them, but you're creating the skill set. There's a gap. Because at the end of the day, those people are not going to use those skill sets and they're going to forget what they learned.
So just giving people handouts and they basically have nothing to do with the handouts.
You can't just teach somebody how to fish and don't give him a net. Yeah. Like it doesn't make sense. So if you're training them and you look at your what they call comparative advantage, right? And then you train people in the area of a comparative advantage. We talk about technology at the time. I've been in technology for 20 years. Okay. Yeah. And want to quit jobs in technology? Yes. What kind of jobs do you want to quit in technology? And how many people can you get that can provide that kind of technological support, that have that acumen, and intellectual capacity to get so well with those certifications and in those areas that they can do offshore jobs, right? Because the only opportunity I see really with technology is that you can train people and they'll be so good that they become freelancers. And then you begin to take jobs online, and all of that. You begin to do jobs all over the country. For instance, we want to do some work right now. We call it Indian programmers, right? Or Indian data analysts. Like the job is so much, and so we call them to do the job. So we need to train our people to that level. Not that you buy them pads and then you teach them how to operate some silly stuff and then say you train them.
Just to fulfill all righteousness, basically.
Yeah. So if you really want to use Empower as a tool, right? Get 1,000 people. Yeah. Train them in Oracle databases or database management system. Train them in Cisco certification. Train them in cybersecurity certifications. Train them to
data analysis and all that.
Data analysis, business intelligence, all of this kind of stuff. Big data analytics. Train them to the point where they have certifications. With that certification, right, you can be in your home and then you work, right? You can be doing stuff online all over the world. So those are the kind of opportunities that because locally, look at it. Like how many banks are employing IT people? Okay, you want to create an IT stuff. How many people are buying software, really? Yeah, how many people are buying all of those things? So you need to create people to a point where they become useful and they become internationally competitive. It's global competitiveness. It's quite
interesting that you talk about India, because I think India is still the headquarters of the outsourcing industry, outsourcing business, and they're just getting a lot of foreign exchange from that industry. And it's so interesting you mentioned India. It's sad that we have the people we can train. The young man who came up with this Twitter service called quoted replies, where you can just get the quoted replies instead of he's a Nigerian, so it's so sad when I hear you talk about India and how they are getting so much from outsourcing because they have those soft skills that the world needs.
India pulls in $225 billion US, right, from outsourcing, right? And I think last year they made $150 billion from outsourcing.
Wow!
I don't know if you get the point I'm making. And how do they do it? They do it by making their universities technology driven. So these guys from the universities, they learn and they become certified. They know how to drive. So for me, Empower is just hypocrisy. If your universities don't have labs and you're spending billions, 100 billion, 200 billion, 300 billion training people on ICT when your universities that are supposed to train them do not have ICT labs. There are a lot of people in computer science departments that have never seen a computer. I've never used a computer before.
We're talking about online learning. Ross, we have to cut it short because of time. I think we need to do a part 2 on this because I'm just enjoying myself, listening to you, and we've just touched
Sure.
on half of the things that we need to look at. We've not had
Yo,
the time to look.
and then in India, right? In India, right?
Yeah.
That's what they call the $1 cycle, right?
$1
Any dollar
cycle.
that comes, any dollar that gets into India, right? What they try to do is to trap it in India. India tries as much as they can to make sure that when the dollar comes in, it stays in India. They only things that are necessary so that to produce and consume local stuff. So, but all of these plans must come in a full package, right?
Mm-hmm.
It has to be a cycle, right? In Nigeria, you give job to companies. Yeah, Lebanese companies do business here. They export the money to Lebanon. Yeah, German companies come here. At the end of the month, they're exporting the money straight out to their country. The worst, Indian companies, the moment you pay them, the next day, the money is flying back to India. Do you understand? So let us look at those areas where we spend a lot of money on, right? And that's why I like the whole concept of the local content stuff that we're doing, the country is doing. It's a beautiful concept. But then we need to also be sure that we stop handing money to companies that export the money and refuse to invest whatever they make here. So for me, I think it's a dual-pronged approach. Look at creating jobs locally. Look at creating ventures that create resources locally. Mm-hmm. But as well, you also need to make sure that these companies that you are giving these jobs to, these companies that are benefiting from these jobs, you have a way of trapping. And Ghana is already doing that. Yeah, and that's why if you fly on a Nigerian aircraft, right, you see them. Most of the juice that we take today are produced in Ghana. I don't know if you've observed it.
Yeah,
observe it.
In the airplanes, yes.
In the airplanes. Now Ghana is trapping them because they cannot. Our airlines that are operating in Ghana cannot pull out all their funds from Ghana. So what do? They buy Ghanaian products. They use the money to buy products in Ghana that they use to operate their airlines. So governments need to be wise. Government needs to be wise. Governors need to be wise. The whole of the capital flight stuff's like. It's really affecting us. So beyond just talking about creating the jobs and all of that, we need to not just create the jobs, identify those skills that are relevant now.
There's a lot to talk about because all you're talking about right now is even opening my mind up to other things. For instance, the CBN's latest waiving of the guarantor requirement. You already mentioned River State plan to. Privatize or look for investment in the agricultural sector.
In agriculture.
Yeah, and there are other opportunities that I'm sure you would love to talk about. For instance, even exporting, because that business is still going on even with the lockdown. And then there's something called the African Growth and Opportunities Act that some people are taking advantage of, AGOA. And how states can key into it and some other things. Maybe what can we export? So we'll look at that. Yeah.
Maybe maybe in another edition, we'll just talk about the opportunities that are available locally for our young entrepreneurs and all of those kind of stuff.
Fantastic. Yeah, Ross, so, when are you going to vie for political position? If you haven't already, I don't know, but
no, I come from a family I come from a family of politicians, so I think we're structured in such a way that we allow the guys in politics be politics, and then some of us in private sector will just remain in private sector and help them do well. I bet
you didn't see that question coming. All right, Ross Alabo George, it's always a delight having you on the program. We've learned a lot from you, so much from you, and thank you for giving us a part of your evening. We'll hope to do it again very soon, but we're really grateful for your time.
Thank you very much. Always a pleasure being here. Thank you with you, man. So look forward to the next call-up. And until then, thanks so much for having me.
Definitely. Always a pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, that's our Port Harcourt's very own Ross Alabo George who joined us live via video call, Zoom, to be precise. And of course, he has left the building. We're really grateful for his time and of course for his insight on the program tonight. I'm sorry I've not read all your messages, but I read one message from YouTube, and the gentleman on YouTube, Chino Isaac, gave us an answer to one of the points that Ross was trying to make. He was trying to remember the name of the company, and it's Revoke. Now I know why that junction at Transformate is called Revoke Junction. I didn't know. So it's quite interesting, very interesting indeed, and grateful to have had Ross on the program tonight. Loaded guy with lots and lots and lots to offer. I need to put these headphones down because we're on Zoom. So if you like what we're doing, I mean, it looks like a TV station already. We're doing that much that we can. We're locked down to try and be productive, and I want to thank the guys who are here with me trying to make it all happen. Thank you guys, I appreciate it. It can only get better. If you'd like to send a message to me, my email address is kofibartels@gmail.com. kofibartels@gmail.com. If you're watching on Facebook, feel free to send a message to me, and I'll be very glad to reply. But you would agree with me, it's been a very, very interesting edition of Late Night Talk. I'm thinking of even changing the name of the program to Talk, because we might have to even switch the time to another time. But I want to say good evening to Emmanuel Daniel. Thank you for your comment. Abraham Izirin Michael, thank you very much. The Icon Studio, good evening. Yes, I came late because my guest, he had something to attend to and he was running late, and that's why you saw me here late today. Thank you, the Icon Studio. Mr. Israel Beregbara, Unity Art, thank you very much. Samuel Harry, thank you very much. Simon Cool Oster says, may God help us. My take on this is that let's keep all the rules relating to this pandemic, example, washing of hands regularly, keeping social distance, wearing of face masks, and so on. God will help us. Amen. Amen. Rosemary Wiley, I don't know which it is, says, good evening. I feel it's not a welcome statement from the federal government at this time of pandemic when people are facing the most difficult times of their lives. Why can't the government look for better way of encouraging its citizens instead of adding to their sufferings? Well, I know that there is no wise person in this country to depend on the government for survival. Okay, thanks so much for informing us. We shall continue to struggle in order to make a better living. Well, I guess you've heard that that statement was made when the federal government unveiled, or the vice president presented, the Economic Sustainability Council's report called or themed bouncing back to the president. They said their projection, what they calculated was that because of what's happening with the pandemic, almost 40 million Nigerians will lose their jobs. So these are the suggestions they are making, and this is what the government wants to do in order to ensure that doesn't happen. So thank you very much. Acho Modu says COVID-19 has its own positive side. No doubt there will be job losses, but I see Nigerians thinking outside the box. Yes, indeed. I see radical approaches to doing things, whether in physical products or services. I see a paradigm shift in the agricultural sector. The things we took for granted in the past will be taken seriously now. So all of these will help to flatten the job market challenge curve. I like that, Acho. I like that, the way you put it. More independent entrepreneurs will spring up doing micro and macro level product and service deliveries in all. The government at all levels must provide the enabling environment. Entrepreneurs and investors thrive in secure and friendly environments. Also, unnecessary taxation must be taken away. That way revenue will go up. Amazing comment, Acho. I need to come back to this because there's a lot you've said there. A lot of amazing stuff you've said. And great. That's why I asked Ross, in all that's happening, negative projections, the gloomy projections, does he see a silver lining in the dark cloud? Maybe something great coming out of it. And you say, yes, people are going to have to think outside the box. And that's what we're doing, if you know what I mean. Okay. The Icon Studio says, honestly, I'm enjoying this talk with Mr. Ross. He's so sound. Wow. These are the kind of people we need in our system, Kofi. I don't enjoy him. I'm enjoying him. I enjoyed him so much. Thank you. We'll keep getting you people like that on the show. Chomodi says, the company Ross is talking of a Transmadi is called Nigerian Engineering Works New. Okay. Is it a revoke? Well, maybe they are almost the same thing. I don't know. AB, thank you, Acho. AB, George Apangolo says, good evening, Kofi. I hope the River State government and its relevant authorities are tuned into this enlightenment discussion from George. Mr. George, you say, the government needs to have people like this around. The governor needs to have people like this around him to improve the economy of the state and Nigeria at large. Yes. I believe that this video will get to the governor. Eugene Abels, me brethren, good evening to you. He says the day you start asking for jobs, ... And he now tags Ross Alabo George, so you all can go at him as a friend there. Queen Clifford says, without quality education, a nation or state is running in circles. Invest in education and agriculture. Thank you very much, Queen. Very interesting comment there coming from you. Another one here. Madigi Bem says, Kofi, let your guests know that there is a big difference between theory and practice. When you create jobs while ignoring the roads by which the people are going to move to and from work, will that not be putting the cart before the horse? You can analyze a game from the sidelines, but it becomes a different ball game when you join the pitch as play. I agree with you, but he said that if the roads are to enhance the movement of services, of goods and agricultural products, fine. But if these are roads that people can do without for now, these are flyovers people can do without for now, that people won't die. Like Jerry Junction, this is Jerry Junction. Me, I'm saying Jerry Junction. Then there's no need to do it. What is in Jerry Junction? That want to move fly, So he's saying we need to use the money for other things. If there's a road that, if like he mentioned, railways, for instance, if you're doing maybe the Boni Road or whatever I talked about, that will help, transfer agricultural produce more easily to the city center, the marketplaces. Fine. But if it's something that we can do without for now, and we can put the money to where money needs to go to, because people are losing jobs. 40 million will be a small amount. Some countries are not even up to 10, 20 million people. Then he says we should think about that. So it's about prioritizing. It's about having a scale of preference, is what he means in these times. It's about timing. Acho says, Ross, I disagree with you for saying that the banana farm at Ogoni failed. Acho has come. Acho, don't bring politics into this. Nah. He says, because the committee was not carried along. Okay. That farm went down because of political statements during the 2015 electioneering campaigns. The governor, then a minister, during the campaigns asked the Ogonis if they are monkeys for banana farm to be sited in their land. And then the farm went on fire. I think that's a good way to end late night talk. I think I've read all the comments there so far. Chow, thank you for setting the record straight, if you may. Wow, it's been a very interesting edition of late night talk. I hope the audio is okay. They could hear me well. My name is Kofi Bartels. I've enjoyed myself. We started late, but we this guy was just a special guy. We had to wait for him, and we're glad that he gave us his time. It's going to get better. Today is the last day for this week. Next week, we're going to do it bigger. By God's grace, we've been doing this program every single weekday since, I think, March ending or early April. I need to check. So that's how many? 5 times a week. 4 weeks a month. So this should be more than 100 episodes, maybe 100 episodes, or 80 or 70. It's an achievement, and we'll keep doing it. We will keep doing it, okay? So support us. Share this post. Like my page, follow my page, share this post, invite your friends to like my page. Please support me and press the notification button if you're on Facebook. Press the notification bell if you're on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel if you're on YouTube, and share it if you're on YouTube and Facebook as well, so that others can see what we're doing. We don't know how the money is going to come in, but somehow it'll come in, okay? So thank you very much. God bless you. My name is Kofi Bartels. Have a great weekend. Thank you, Sammy. Thank you. Thank God. It sounds somehow to say thank you. Thank God. God bless all of you, and good night.